Hi, I'm John Liebman. You're watching ForBassPlayersOnly.com. I've got an amazing interview with Tim Smith coming up right now. Be sure to subscribe to the For Bass Players Only YouTube channel, and there is a killer PDF below this video that you can download right now called 12 Surefire Tips to Make You a Better Bass Player. Download it now for free. Here comes Tim Smith. Hi, Tim.
How you doing, John?
All right. Great to see you again.
You too.
Thank you. I watched the video this morning that we did on the campus of the University of Miami back in, would you believe, 2015.
Wow.
And it was a great interview. You were telling me about your father and your uncle and James Brown and Johnny Cash and Tom Jones, and great story, great family history. And that interview is archived on ForBassPlayersOnly.com. Anybody that goes to the site, just put Tim Smith in the search thing, and it'll come right up. And I figured, how many years?
Well, I enjoyed doing that. I can't believe it's been that long ago. 6 years.
It was great. So I didn't think it was too early for a follow-up. You're a busy guy. You're always doing something. You're originally from the Carolinas. And then
right.
You went down to, you were from Nashville, then you went from Nashville to Miami, then you went from Miami back to Nashville. So do you feel like you're home?
Yeah, I really do. It was strange. I went back to Miami after many years here in Nashville, went back to Miami to get a master's degree, and they offered me a teaching gig. So I took it. That was in 2014. Miami did make me fall in love with teaching. I loved that part of it. Miami is, it was an amazing place to teach, and obviously you and I both know the heritage of that, and I can't think of, I compare everything to the University of Miami. When somebody talks to me about Berkeley or North Texas or anywhere else, I'm always like, yeah, those are incredible schools, but at Miami we did this, at Miami we did that, and when I got there in 1975. The faculty, I think, and even having been a part of the faculty later, I don't think there was ever a better faculty than in those days with Whit Seidner and Dan Bonsani, Vince Maggio, Gary Lindsay. It was just remarkable. Randall Dollahan and of course, Don Kaufman, who was really the daddy of all of it as far as, especially from electric-based education. I don't think, he took what Jaco had started and put organization behind it, and Jaco was very flaky about how he taught. He didn't really have a system, and yeah, it was I loved him, and I was so glad that I got to be with him and study and become friends. But his idea of a lesson sometimes was you sit there and watch me play, and which was unbelievable. I sat in a practice room one time and for about 40 minutes. And heard him play for 40 minutes, never repeated an idea. Right. And it was just all stream of conscious, nothing planned. And he got to the end of it, and I was like, I think I'm going to move back to North Carolina. And he goes, why? I said, because I can't do any of that stuff. He goes, not today. And that I have lived by that. It was like he didn't see that this is never going to work. He saw that, hey, keep doing things you're doing. And but Don was just so spectacular about the printouts and the handouts, and then the way he taught, and really getting reading together, and it just of course Chuck Bergeron is the main bass guy there, and great upright and electric player.
Then you brought back some great memories about Jaco. I'm very privileged to have gotten to know him too, and sitting on his living room floor with him, and I'm asking him to show me fingerings to Teen Town, and where he's telling all the weather report stories, and it was I was there the night the night the incident happened. I was at the Santana concert, and Alphonso Johnson was playing with Santana and a bass solo, and I say, somebody jumped up on the stage and went over Alfonso's head as if to say to the audience, hey, give it up for Alfonso. And I said, oh my God, that's Jaco. That's Jaco. And we know the rest of the story, what happened that night. But I was I'll never forget getting to know him and hanging out with him, and I just feel very, very privileged to have done that. And I thank you for bringing back those memories. So, what's keeping you busy, Tim? What's going on these?
Well, again, I moved back to Nashville in the throes of the pandemic, so that was not the greatest time for the industry. But the studios opened up early. We started doing sessions, fully masked, socially distanced. Everybody here, and I can tell by where you're sitting, everybody has a home studio. Everybody can record at home. So my first thing, I felt so inspired to make music when I got back to Nashville that my brother and I started a new record with another Mr. Groove record. This thing has been the greatest labor of love. Yeah, it's Keith Carlock from Steely Dan on drums, who lives here in Nashville. Jim Beard from Steely Dan on piano. Jim and I played together with Bill Evans back in the mid 80s. And then Bill Evans, the sax player that played with Miles, he's on the record. He lives here now. He lives right down the road from the Wooten brothers. So he's got a good place. Lenny Castro from Toto's doing all the percussion on it. A lot of other great players. Ed Kaye from Miami, one of our standard bearers. This has been just like the coolest record because everybody had free time because of the pandemic. There's even a song on the record called Social Distance that we came up with that. But not only doing that, doing sessions for other people. I've been doing a new record with Charlie McCoy, who's in the Country Music Hall of Fame, probably the greatest harmonica player in the world. Been on every record from all the Elvis stuff to he does sessions on 50 different instruments. I mean, he played bass on Bob Dylan's Everybody Must Get Stoned while playing trumpet with his right hand and fingering a bass with his left hand. So he's an alien and a dear friend. We've been friends for over 40 years and working on his new record. And I got, when I was in Miami, I came to this never being an upright player. And when I got to Miami, Don Kaufman, to get my master's, Don was like, hey, you ought to do at least one semester with me on upright. So I did that, did a semester with Chuck on upright. I actually played upright on a couple of tunes on my recital. And then before I left Miami, I sold my upright to Joe Marino, who's one of the top grad students down there, great bass player. And I was like, I probably will never touch another upright. And when I got back here,
either there's an upright behind you or you've got something growing out of your head.
Let me tell you, there's a sound to upright that I was never able to accomplish on a big upright, but I've always loved it. I just couldn't quite get to it. And my brother shamed me one day and said, we need to do some acoustic music too. And so Roy Vogt, who's a friend of both of ours over at Belmont, I called him up. I said, what kind of electric upright do you have? And he let me borrow one. And then I tried out a couple of other ones. And then I went back to Roy and he said, well, I've got this NS Designs thing, electric upright. And I took it home for a couple of days and fell in love with it. And so I called Ned Steinberger up. And so I have this, which is a magnificent instrument. And so I've already used it on a couple of records. It's a 4-string. And what's amazing about this bass is, and I know Ron Carter doesn't have to worry about this, but I never could get an upright to sound like Ron or even Ray Brown or any of that. When I played it, I didn't have good enough technique to make it really, really sound that way. This thing sounds great when I plug it in. So it's like just a little tweaking on my preamp and stuff. And I've really been enjoying it. And I'm still trying to get better on everything, John. I'm feeling like my playing is the best it's ever been. I haven't hit that point with my hands where it's like, things start going the other direction. I'm 64 and I'm excited about playing. The new record sounds amazing. And the guys that we're playing with, we're just having so much fun making music. And I think that maybe the most important thing I imparted to my students at Miami was that you can be my age and still have a love affair with this music, and I learn something new every time I pick it up. I try to be creative every day. I just want to continue to be creative, keep making music.
For Bass Players Only, we've got well over 800 interviews now, but we're really a bass instruction site, and we've got people from just about every state in the U.S. and 50-some countries worldwide, all coming to ForBassPlayersOnly.com to learn how to play bass. And they're not really career bound, most of them. They're not trying to set the world on fire. They're not trying to be rock stars. They just want to have fun and play with their buddies, make some music, play some blues shuffles and some classic rock riffs and some walking bass lines or whatever they want to play. So I wanted to take this opportunity to ask you, because you've taught so many people successfully, what advice do you have for someone who wants to learn bass? I should also say most of the people that I attract are men in their 50s, 60s, 70s, and we've got a fair number of women also, but mostly men. So in that context, what advice do you have for those people?
I'm glad you asked that. Most of them fall into a category that I call weekend warriors. And they're people, Roy Vogt did a bass camp, and Adam Nitty and I taught for him there. And one of my students was the chief of epidemiology for the state of Florida. I love it. And his goal in life was to be able to go sit in at a blues club and play 12-bar blues. And this guy's researching some of the highest level diseases in the state of Florida, but that's his goal for the students that are what you're talking about, the kind that would come to For Bass Players Only and be in their 50s and go like, hey man, I'd like to go be able to play a classic rock. I'd like to be able to go play this, whether it's a Led Zeppelin tune or an Allman Brothers tune. It's amazing how many people come to me and go, I'd like to be able to play an Allman Brothers tune. I said, well, Mountain Jam's only 30 minutes long. You should learn that one. But I have found that you gotta tailor your teaching to what the student hopes to accomplish. What you're doing with your educational side is of so much value, because for so long we've thought that unless you're going to be trying to make a living in the music business, you don't need this. And it's like music is an incredible hobby. If somebody wants to do it and get better at it, we need to have ways to help them accomplish that. It's not a private club that we got here. You try to open it up for it. And so I also like the idea, so I've taught everything from players that already came in playing stuff that I couldn't dream of, doing all the tapping and all the other stuff. And then I would say, okay, let's play whole notes. And they couldn't do it. I've replaced some bass players that will remain nameless, great bass players, heroes of mine, that couldn't play low E whole notes for 5 or 6 minutes without changing it. They would have to start putting a grace note in here or there. And I'm like, no, we can't all be James Jamerson. I just want them to do the best they can. And if their goals are honorable and they want to do good stuff with their instrument, whether they want to be concert musicians or do sessions, Lee Sklar had one of the greatest lines ever. He told me one time, he said, somebody asked us in one of these bass Zoom things that we had done, they said, well, what do you like to do? And I said, well, I just like to try to play what's the right thing for the song, especially if it's a vocal tune and you don't want to get in the way of the vocal. I try to do that. And Lee goes, almost there. I was like, well, what would you say? He goes, I want to do the least amount possible that's right for the song. You're not going to make a living in Nashville if you don't do that. What a website like yours does is it creates community, and that's incredibly important. And I don't know if guitar players or drummers do that or not, but bass players really do seem to come together. We have one foot in the rhythmic world, one foot in the harmonic world. And, we operate in a way that most of the other musicians don't have to think about. I'm a bass player because that's what I gravitated to. When I was really little, my ears went to that. And luckily enough, I had older sisters that listened to a lot of Motown. And so I heard this music that the bass was loud and it was really, really cool. I wasn't interested in hearing the rock and roll bass players just going do, 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 It's like, okay, I could do that when I was a baby. But you hear Jamerson or you hear Babbitt or those guys play. It's like, wow, how did they get a bass line that fits this song and complements the melody? And it's just amazing.
Somebody I was interviewing recently said a bass player's job is to make other people sound good.
Yeah, I don't argue with that. But if you think about where we come from as bass players, if your intention is me, like you talk about the other guys, you're probably playing the wrong instrument. I mean, there are a few bass players, and I've talked about this with some of them who are fabulous bass players. I don't think they're bass players at all. I think they're bass artists, because a bass player to me is the guy that can get hired to play. You might have to play something. You might have to play Papa Was Rolling Stone and be able to leave a measure and a half out between lines. Do-don't, don't. Rest a while, eat a sandwich, have a drink. Don't. So if you can't do that, then I don't consider you a bass player. I think you're more of the bass artist type, and that's fine too. We need them too. And I don't hire people that can't play in the pocket. There's guys that blow your mind how many chops they got and how great they are, but that's not the kind of music that I'm making. I want it to be grooving so hard to where everybody just feels like you're in this comfortable. Somebody described to me one time that the groove is like a wagon rut, and you can play over here or you can play over there. You can play right here in the middle. You can't get out of that rut or you're going to destroy this thing, So, everybody, and then when you play with certain people, you find a comfort zone with them. I've played with some of the most famous musicians in the world and didn't have fun. And I've played with a lot of them and did have fun. And it was like, okay, well, we must be feeling time in the same place.
Tim, I could continue this conversation all day. There's so much I want to ask about Nashville and about this and about that, but I think we need to wind down just in the interest of time and people's attention span and listening to me go on and firing questions at you. So tell me the name of the record, your record that you're working on.
The record's going to be called Meadow Park. The band is Mr. Groove, and Meadow Park is the title cut on it, and it's actually the street that I live on here in Nashville now. Feel free to let anybody know how to reach out to me if there's anything that I can do to help them about Nashville. I mean, obviously, Nashville is not a huge city, but there's more studios here than in New York and LA combined. So there's this incredible saturation of great musicians, and there is a scene here. There's a rock scene here. There's a hip hop scene here. There's a jazz scene here. It's pretty crazy. If you go to a restaurant, your waiter is probably a musician and a songwriter, so. Yeah.
All right, just a quick question about Nashville, because it's been growing like crazy business-wise, and I also see Jeff Berlin and Billy Sheehan and how many other people have all been migrating to Nashville. You're very familiar with Nashville from way back. Is it the same, just bigger, or is it different now that it's grown so much?
It's very different. I mean, when you ride through the part of town that we call Music Row, a lot of the studios are gone. They've been replaced by high-rise condos. They told me one day that they process 40 California driver's licenses transferred to Tennessee every day. So there's an influx of that. But what's happened, every major label has offices here. Every major publishing company has offices here. So there is this tendency for there to always be people creating music. And then when Jeff moved here and Billy moved here, I think part of the reason for that is because we're like the last place on earth where they put 6 or 7 musicians in a room and make records. LA is very different than that anymore. New York is very different than that. So much now is done individually there. Also, if you've got a great song here, you can definitely walk in a publishing company and say, man, can I play you my song? Somebody's going to say, yeah, come on in. So I think there's still the ability to grow a music career here. I really believe in Nashville. It is the other night on the football game, the commentators that were for the national broadcast said, every time we come here, downtown looks bigger. And, there's constantly building going on here. It's a thriving place. And the traffic is equally awful right now. But I'm glad there's still somewhere left like this.
And we can keep talking all day, but thank you so much for taking the time and sharing all these wonderful thoughts and insights and stories and stuff about gear and everything.
Well, thank you for doing what you do, and it's so necessary and it's so great for our community. And you don't seem to be having any trouble getting great bass players on here to talk with you. I'm honored to be a part of that. Just keep it up and let me know if we can ever do anything for you. And hopefully the next time we have some kind of thing in Nashville, we can do maybe do a live video with a round table of a bunch of us, Nashville bass players with you and, get a bunch of the session guys, and we would have a blast.
I would be honored. You know where to find me.
I do. Well, enjoy your day, man.
Thank you so much, Tim. Take care, and much luck and continued success to you always.
Thank you, John. Have a great day.
Bye, my friend.